Tonight, you're about to hear 11 true horror stories. Now, legends, not creepypasta. These happen to real people, in places they once felt safe. Some heard footsteps that shouldn't exist. Some saw people who were already dead. And some realized the truth days too late. If you believe ghosts aren't real, you might want to stop listening now.
This story is true, and sometimes I wish it wasn't. I was a freshman in high school, hanging out with two friends I'll call T and B1. October 9th, I snuck out of a sleepover to meet them, feeling rebellious. What? Driving while on her phone. And even though I yelled at her to pay attention, she clipped a truck, panicked, and took off, blowing through multiple red lights before stopping near T's house. After that, T ran home, leaving me alone with me in the dark while she freaked out over the damage. For context, I was the only guy by her, so we walked back to T's, which took around 20 minutes. We eventually regrouped, hung out, fly, and I walked me back to her car before starting the walk back to my friend Issy's house around 2 a.m. As I walked through the quiet neighborhood, replaying everything that had happened, I heard crying, undera a streetlight. I saw a woman sitting against a brick wall, her black hair completely covering her face, her body folded in on itself in a way that felt wrong. I didn't stop to think. I pretended not to notice her. Then suddenly ran as fast as I could, yelling, "Fuck no." I thought I heard footsteps behind me, but when I glanced back, there was nothing except darkness. When I reached my friend's house and tried climbing through a window, a pickup truck slowly crept down the street, stopping near each house. My heart was pounding until it finally passed. I got inside and told my friends what happened. I don't know if they believed me, but I know what I saw, and I still think about it. My aunts and uncles found a Ouija board buried in their childhood home. What followed still freaks me out. I've never touched an Ouija board myself, and after hearing this story, I never will. These was told to maybe my aunt, and it happened when my mom, aunts, and uncles were kids, back when they all lived in an old duplex in Utah. The building was already old. Both sides of the duplex shared a basement, and in that basement was a crawl space that connected the two units. It was low, dark, and dirt-floored, supported by thick wooden beams. My grandma had cleaned it out so the kids would have a place to play. Andy spent a lot of time down there, using their imaginations and treating it like their own hidden world. One day, while digging around near the back of the crawl space, they uncovered something buried in the dirt. A Ouija board. None of them knew where it came from. No one admitted bringing it down there. But they were kids, curious and bored, and they didn't really understand what it was. So they decided to play with it. That didn't last long. My family is very Catholic, and when my grandma found out what they were doing, she was furious. She didn't hesitate. She took the board away, cut it up into pieces, and threw it out, making sure it was completely gone. She made it very clear that they were never to mess with something like that again. A few days later, the kids went back into the crawl space to play like they always had. They had been cleaned out before, and nothing new had been brought down there. But sitting on the dirt floor was a single piece of cardboard. It was part of the Ouija board. Printed on it was one letter. There was no reason for it to be there. No way it should have survived being destroyed. And no explanation for how it could have made its way back into that crawl space. Everyone swore they hadn't brought it down there. When my grandma saw it, she believed it wasn't random. To her, it was a message, not a full sentence, just enough to be understood. My parents used to send my brother and I to spend our summer vacations in my dad's ranch in Mexico. We worked in the mountainside near the ranch house, and we would have our dinner in the main house, which was a mile walk up towards a rock-paved road up a hill. We often worked further up a mountain with a stream. After a long day of herding and fishing, we were making our way back towards the ranch. It was already dark, and my cousins and I were having a casual conversation. I don't know why I started absent-mindedly whistling. This caused a sudden reaction from my cousins and brother, who all stopped in silence to stare at me. I asked, "What?" It is when they all said to never whistle at night. I asked, "Why not?" My older cousin explained, "When you whistle at night, the devil whistles back." Rolled my eyes at this. He never believed in ghosts or anything like such. As a kid who enjoyed watching horror movies, so being an annoying little brat, I started whistling again. I saw that it genuinely spooked them. One of my cousins even ran up the hill ahead of us. I laughed at them and kept whistling until they all left me behind. Finally, all alone, I made my way up the hill. All I could hear was the wind and the sound of croaking toads, until eventually I hear a whistle. Thinking it was one of cousins messing with me, I did it. I whistled back, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up, because I suddenly heard the whistle again. This time right behind me, so close, it was like whoever was whistling was only inches right behind me. I don't what it was that told me not to turn around, but I didn't. I decided to pick up my speed. I could already see the lights of the house and hear the voices of family. When I heard it again, the whistle and the sound of hooves on the rock road, I decided to run and yelled for my brother. He came running outside, and I ran into the house, blubbering about what I had heard. He never turned around, and my brother said he saw nothing, but he did admit to me years later that he heard the sound of the hooves, which alerted him to go check outside, thinking one of the horses had gone loose. I was doing some highly specialized artistic work in a repurposed building from the 1800s. The building is in a major was city. I was hired to work overnight to complete the job by the morning. This space has only been in use for approximately 3 years, since being empty for who knows how long. My work is so specialized that the place hired a security guard to stay with me while I completed my project. He and I were the only 2 people in the building from about midnight forward. At our first meeting, I even joked with him about ghosts. He had a history working there and said it wasn't haunted. I believed him. I'm pretty tough. I've had little unexplained experiences through my life in places that have a history. It's the thing I typically is seeing little shadows or sometimes figures out of the corner of my eyes. These artifacts simply vanish if I try to focus on them. I don't see these things in everyday life, so I'm not hallucinating. I'm not even sure if I'm physically seeing them or if it's more extrasensory. It only happens in places that have the energy. I've also had my name called, been touched, but never felt imposed upon or like whatever it was trying to scare me. I never got that spooked. During my project, I did feel like I was being watched, but ignored it. My bosses were extremely happy with my work, and I did tell a few friends about my experience the next day. I know there must be other people who have experienced things in that space. It's totally haunted. This is a true story from the 1960s. Every morning, my grandfather went to work. All 3 children went to school. My grandmother was alone at home every afternoon. She heard someone cooking in the kitchen, utensils clanging, plates falling. But when she checked, the kitchen was empty. She stopped going there when she was alone. One night, around midnight, my grandfather got up to use the washroom. Suddenly, a loud thud. My grandmother rushed out and saw him on the floor, his hands round his own neck, not choking himself, fighting something she couldn't see. They moved out a month later. A new family moved in. Days later, the new tenants came back and asked, "Did you also hear someone cooking when no one was home?" Then they sighed. And last night, someone tried to strangle me. The house is empty now, but people still hear utensils from the kitchen. This story was my mom's. She passed away in 2021. But this is the creepiest story she told us. It was around late 1990s when my mom became friends with a neighbor that owns a small grocery store in our town. Not sure how my mom became close with her, but based on what I knew, the husband of the OWNER, who was a police officer, cheated on her, and they're having a rough time. My mom comforted this lady a lot, to the point that they were best friends. Unfortunately, my family had to move to a different city, and since this was the late 1990s, today, no social media yet, my mom and her best friend lost touch with each other. A couple of months went by, and it was shown on the local news that the grocery owner took her husband's life by ostracising him while he is sleeping, and then ostracized herself too. One night, my father wasn't home, and my siblings and I were sleeping with Mom. My mom had a dream, and in her dream she was walking home with the grocery owner in a long dark road. In her dream, my mom asked her, "Why are you walking this way? You live the other way." Her friend replied, "I'm D. I'm just looking for you." My mom ran away as fast as she could, and when she reached our house in the dream, she woke up. Now this is an important detail. The floor on the second floor of the house is made of bamboo strips, and between the gaps of the bamboo strip, you can see the floor below. A house like this was common back in the 90s to lessen heat inside the house. As we live in a tropical country, relieved that it was only a dream, she stood up and was thinking of going to the bathroom downstairs when she saw someone below. between the gaps of the bamboo floor. It was looking up to her like it once did. No, that ghost was downstairs, like it followed her. My mom was so afraid that instead of going to the ground floor, she pissed in a cup of coffee instead. Funny, but true. A couple of years after that, a family who apparently doesn't believe in ghosts moved to the house of the grocery store owner and the police. The neighbors told them that a crime was committed in that house, but they didn't care. They were Mormons, I believe. One afternoon, the kid of the people who moved in that house was watching anime in the living room when the kid heard someone clearing his throat in the bedroom. When the kid looked at the bedroom, he saw a guy sitting on the bed, asking him, "What are you doing in our house?" The family moved out in just a week. Years after, a tricycle driver. A tricycle is like a tuk-tuk in Thailand. Like a mini taxi happened to pass by the house of the grocery store owner around 3 a.m. According to the driver, he saw a woman waving her hand, calling his attention like it needs a ride. He decided to go back because he thought that the lady is a passenger. The lady vanished like a smoke when he was finally near her, and this scared the Shastra's tea out of the tricycle driver. He only learned of the story of the house in the morning when he told the neighbors what he saw. Until now, no one lived in that house. Ever since I was little, I had multiple experiences with the paranormal. I have seen and heard things. I even had a couple of dreams, and it still creeped me the hell out when I experience wanting to share some of the stories I have experienced. So here's one that still creeps me the hell out even though it happened a few years ago. A little background before I started. I have 2 son conures, and they usually have them free range of the room, even when I'm not home. I also leave the TV on when I'm not there. Like I said, this happened I should have been 20 at the time. I remember being tired all day and just wanting to get home to sleep. I got back from work around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so there was still light outside. I go into my room, changing and putting the birds away. Hell's Kitchen was playing at the time. I was okay with a little background noise, so I again bay. As I started getting comfortable, I decided against the noise and turn off the TV. I finally get comfortable and start falling asleep. I was in the half asleep, half awake state when I started hearing the TV. Confused, I cracked my eyes open and see that the TV is off. Thinking I was hearing stuff, I close my eyes and get comfortable again. That's when I feel my blankets move and the bed dip, and the blanket moves again, as if someone was going to take a nap with me. My first thought was that my sister came into my room was going to take a nap with me. My second thought was that it'd be impossible, since she would have still been at school at the time. That's when the fear really set in, and I freeze. Mustering up the courage, I turn around and see no one. I then quickly turn back around, cover my face with the blanket, and fall back asleep. I woke up again around 6 in the afternoon and rush upstairs to tell my mom what happened. All she tells me to do is pray before you guys start saying it's fake, since I just went back to sleep. That's always the way my body responds when I experience something paranormal. When I'm sleeping, something new. Primera, a beber. Has anyone lived in a haunted house? Here's my story. It's long, but hope you enjoy. So I live with my stepmom, dad, little sister, and brother. There's always been weird, unexplained noises, shadows, and the feeling of being watched here. But this takes the cake. It all started with just random noises and weird sounds and progressively got worse. The first signs were shadows that you catch with the side of your eye and no one being there. 10. Were there things like hearing something climb up my bunk bed ladder and my bed bouncing like someone hopped in. But today when I got off work, there was only my little brother's truck at home. We have a loud stereo in our room and we jam it loud when no one is home. Anyway, he was the only one there, so I thought. So I get off work, see his truck and think, oh, I guess he is homie. But it was when I get close to the house, I could hear the stereo real loud, but couldn't make out his song. When I touched the door to open it, I could feel the door rattling from the bass. Us. Soon. Us. I unlocked the door and opened it. It was dead silent, and our room door was open. So, I'm scared. At this point, I slowly walked to our room and am standing in the doorway. There was no one in there. I laugh and say, bro, this isn't funny, where are you? There was no answer, just silence. It went to step in my room, and right when my foot picked up my door, slammed the shit out of me, pushing me into my room and on the floor. I get up real fast, open the door, and no one was there. I looked everywhere in the house, and there was no human in there. So I called my brother and asked, where TFR? You hiding? He says, what are you talking about? I'm at church, I rode with. Mom, I said, okay, I'll be there. Mind you, I hate church, no offense. I'm still thinking when I get there, he's still going to be at home hiding. But nope. When I got there, I found him and he could tell I was scared. He said, what happened? I've never seen you like this. I told him and he got white as a ghost, pun intended. He said, last night I heard a sound while you were asleep. He went to check it out and saw a little girl in the living room. Watching the TV, there was just fuzz. When she saw me, she smiled real creepy and ran into a wall and disappeared. So now I have no idea what to do. Everyone in the house knows it's haunted, but it's a big house and got it for cheap. So we can move. Anyway, that's my story of today. I know it was a long one, but I hope it entertained you, BC. It scares the shit out of me. I think my house is somehow haunted by my aunt or her demons, and I don't know what to do. The house that I 21F live in currently with my parents as I finished college was built by my dad and my granddad from scratch. My entire life, I've always been pretty confident that my paranormal experiences were just weird dreams or hallucinations, because obviously there couldn't be a ghost or spirit there. No one ever died there or anything. There's no creepy house history before us. Turns out there was actually a death in the house that I was never told about. I've always known my aunt passed away before I was born due to overdose, but no one ever told me until this week that she passed away in our living room on my granddad's old couch. So every time I've calmed myself with the fact that there has never been any death in the house, I was just completely wrong. Super. But I had some weird experiences when I was little, mostly with dreams, like seeing a very, very vivid knight in shining armor in my doorway, which I had an odd fear of knights for some reason. Long story. Idirk. what that says about my childhood low. But as I've gotten older, the experiences have gotten so much more real. Honestly, I had worked on my intuition and clairvoyance skills in this house when I was about 1617 and had to stop because I was getting too scared of what I was hearing and dreaming about. Like, Yonsei woke up to a very loud whisper of my name being called when I was home alone, and it absolutely freaked me out. They've always said that I refuse to actually see anything, whether I have an ability to or not. I don't ever want to visibly see anything. Hearing is fine with me, or the weird knowing is fine with me, but see is where I draw the line. But when I was about 19, I was in a relationship with this guy, and I had a dream that I was laying on my bed in my room, face down, and the guy I was dating was standing right next to me, beside the bed facing me. In this dream, an arm comes out of the side crack of my bed and begins to pull my arm down with it. This freaks me out, so I wake up in that exact position as I was in the dream, face down. My arm that was being pulled down is numb, so I look down at my arm first to see if anything weird is beside it, and there is nothing there. Just a weird tingling sensation like my arm fell asleep. I'm kind of semi-stuck to my bed like my arm is. Almost like paralysis, but not entirely. So then I look to the side of my bed where my boyfriend at the time had been standing in my dream, and I am met with this transparent face smiling at me, as though some figure is kneeling down next to my bed. I am looking it in the eyes as it slowly fades away to nothing. And I wish I could say. And then I woke up, and then I went back to bed, but nope. I got up and I went into the living room with my dad, where I had a full-blown conversation with him about what I had seen. And he could tell I was really, really freaked out. There is another time where I am home alone, taking a bath, and my mom had just left the house to go to the grocery store. I hear walking outside of the bathroom door so vivid to the point where I yell out for my mom and ask her how she got done so quickly, or if she had even left yet. No response. Do. That was odd, so I call out again, and still I'm hearing the walking. I begin to be pretty freaked out at this point, so I call my mom, and her phone rings from the kitchen, and the walking stops immediately. I'm relieved, because this makes me think, oh, okay, it's my mom checking her phone, but the phone still rings, and no answer, no call out. So then I call my dad, for him to tell me that he and my mom had went to the store together, and my mom had forgotten her phone at home. These are the two big ones that are recent. The house honestly freaks me out, but I've always brushed it off because I thought it couldn't be anything, because the house has no history. But I was very upset to find out how wrong I was about that. My whole life, my dad has also had some experiences, and he's intuitive, just like me. So he picks up on things, even though he is very against the paranormal. But you don't want this to be too long. Thank you for reading. This, she lived with a corpse for 10 days. It was her roommate. Story is something I heard from a Thai ghost story radio show. It was told as a true experience by a woman named Sai, who shared what happened to her many years ago. Back then, Sai didn't have much money, so she shared a small dorm room with another female student she knew. Their goal was simple: save as much money as possible. Sai's roommate was polite, quiet, and very focused on her studies. Every morning she went to class, and every evening she came straight back to their room. Sai's schedule was the opposite. She slept during the day and worked in the evenings. Everything started during a week when Sai had to travel out of town for work for about 7 days. Before she left, her roommate asked her, "If I'm not here, will you be okay staying alone?" Sai just laughed and assumed her roommate wanted to stay with her boyfriend. So she answered, "Of course, I won't be lonely." Sai then left for her work trip. She still saw her roommate sharing posts on Facebook like normal. On the 7th day, she called her roommate to say she wouldn't be coming home yet because her co-workers were having a dinner party. But she couldn't reach her. Sai didn't think much of it and let it go. On the 8th day, Sai returned to the room as usual. Her roommate was there, sitting inside, reading a book, brushing her hair, talking to her normally. Sai took a shower and went to bed. Later, the roommate said she needed to run some errands and stepped out. On the 9th day, Sai woke up to an empty room. Her roommate had gone to class. She went downstairs to get breakfast and overheard people at the restaurant under her building complaining about a terrible smell coming from one of the rooms. Sai didn't smell anything. When she went back upstairs, a neighbor asked her the same thing about the rotten smell. Again, Sai told them she didn't smell it. That evening, her roommate came back to the room like normal and said nothing about any smell. On the 10th day, the dorm owner and her nephew knocked on Sai's door. When she opened it, the nephew said he smelled something awful coming from a room and asked to check inside. Hey, walk in. And moments later, came running out, terrified. His scream made both Sai and the dorm owner freeze. After he calmed down a little, he went back inside and immediately collapsed, crying out in panic. Sai and the dorm owner rushed in after him. Inside the bathroom was the corpse of Sai's roommate. She had hanged herself. Her tongue protruded. Her body had already begun decomposing fluids and blood leaking from where the skin had ruptured. When the police and medical examiners arrived, they confirmed that the roommate had been dead for 10 days, meaning she died the very first day Sai left for her work trip. In her diary, they found a note. "I tried until I couldn't anymore. School, money, love. I can't fight it now." She also wrote that she was pregnant, but her boyfriend had cheated on her with a freshman at the university. Heartbroken, she ended her life. But the strangest part is this. Sai had been living in the room with her roommate's corpse and never realized it. She saw her roommate walking in and out. She talked to her. She even used the bathroom, the same bathroom where the body was, without noticing anything at all. Most people believe the same explanation. Sai did see her friend's body on the first day she returned, but the shock was so overwhelming that her mind completely shut down the memory. Her brain, trying to protect her, blocked the horror entirely, creating a psychological blind spot. Sauce Walden break down from seeing the friend she cared about lying dead. And so, for days, she lived with the corpse, while her mind refused to let her understand what she was really seeing. Some houses remember, some spirits stay, and some encounters never really end. If these stories disturbed you, That means you were paying attention. Sleep well. And if you hear something tonight, don't look.